Welcome to the Ambitious Introvert, the leading growth and development podcast for the estimated 56% of us who recharge by going inwards. Our purpose is to help you manage your social battery and own your energy so you can reach your true potential in your business, your career, or your life. I'm your host, Emma-Louise Parks, a former air traffic controller, entrepreneur, and a success coach with over 15 years experience. I've supported hundreds of introverts like you who dream big and are ready to take action towards making those dreams a reality without compromising their energy in the process. Each week, my guests and I will be sharing tips, tricks, and hacks on how to build your resilience, master your mindset, and cultivate self-leadership. Skills that will help you reach your goals without trying to be someone that you're not. We'll also be sharing valuable lessons and insights from our own personal experiences, all focused on one thing: helping you own your energy to reach your potential. As a fellow ambitious introvert, I know you have been there. You have set yourself a goal that feels so big, so out of reach, so exciting, and you have given it your all. You have done everything in your power, focused all of your time and energy and attention on this goal. And then the day comes, you have done it. You have succeeded in this thing. You have hit this goal and you feel, well, kind of meh about it. And you're like, what is going on here? This is the thing that I have desired for so long. And yet I don't feel that excitement that I expected. It kind of feels a bit flat and normal. And so in this episode of the Ambitious Introvert Podcast, I'm going to break down 6 reasons why you may find it really, really hard to feel good when you get the exact thing that you think you want. And do stay tuned till the end, because as a bonus, I'm going to give you another reason that actually highlights that things are actually going pretty well for you. If you are new to the podcast, I'm Emma-Louise, and I am here to help you to reach your potential as an ambitious introvert by using your energy efficiently and developing your self-leadership skills so that you can perform at your absolute best, reach your potential, and get everything that you want in your life, in your career, or your business. So let's dive straight in. We hit this goal and we feel kind of meh about it. Why is this? Now, the first reason is quite often, as high achievers, as high performers, as people with big ambition, we have what I like to call never enough conditioning. And what I mean by this is we have been conditioned from a young age, whether that's through the education system, through our parents, through the media, that it could always be better. It's like you go home with 9 A's and a B and your parents go, no, well, why did you get a B? Or at school, you work really hard on a paper and you get 99% instead of 100. It's this feeling of, okay, it's good, but it's not good enough. Like, oh, you got an A, but why didn't you get an A plus? Or you got an A plus, but somebody else got a higher percentage than you. And this is very, very common because of the Western education system and because of parents who, quite rightly want their children to do their best, want them to succeed, want them to work hard. They want to motivate them. They want to push them, but it's not always the best way. And we can take that on board very, very strongly as adults and feel like nothing is ever good enough. So that is the first reason. So see if that resonates with you. Do you have that never enough conditioning where you've always been told it could be better, it could be better? And now when you're creating things yourself, you're doing things of your own volition, you find that thought still creeps in. Number 2 is kind of related, but slightly different. And I've seen this so much in myself and many of my clients, and this is what I call what's next syndrome. And this is where we have this big goal, we want to achieve something, and we get there, and it's almost like we've ticked a box, and then we go, all right, what's next? Right, what's next? Move on. And you're already focused on the next thing because you've perpetually been in this state of achievement, and chasing and doing. And actually taking a pause to celebrate just doesn't even cross your mind, because your brain just goes, what's next? This, again, is a lot of conditioning around productivity, around, don't rest and don't pause, and people will get ahead if you do. And, what's your next focus and what's your 90-day goal? And that's not to say that any of these things are necessarily bad. But when it adds up to us not being able to stop and actually celebrate what we've achieved, then it can become a problem, because then we're on this treadmill of what's next. And we're ticking off all of these amazing things and we're doing all of this great stuff, but we never feel really any fulfillment from it, because we're always looking for the next thing. Our brain is hyper-focused on the next achievement, which, guess what? We'll go and do the same thing again. We'll tick that one off the list and then we'll be like, okay, but what's next? And where I've seen this particular syndrome, as I'm going to call it, play out the most is with entrepreneur clients who are looking for a certain revenue goal or a certain number of clients, and they hit it and that's what they've wanted. And they're like, yeah, all right, now I want to double that. And it's like it's within a second of it happening, they're straight on to the next thing. So number 2 is what's next syndrome. Just check in with yourself and see if you are guilty of that. Now, number 3 runs a little bit deeper and is quite often tied to our self-worth and our self-esteem. And that is I hit my goal, but it doesn't count because. So this is where we find ways to discredit our success. So for instance, maybe your goal was, as a business owner, to sign your first client, and you do that, and then you go, oh, but it doesn't count because I already knew that person, that, they didn't come through my marketing, so it doesn't really count. Or maybe you get a promotion and you go, oh, well, I didn't interview for it. I just got promoted because they'd seen the work that I'd done. So I didn't have to pass an interview, so it doesn't really count. Or let's say it's like a health and fitness goal. Let's say it's a personal best at the gym. You wanted to run a certain distance in a certain time or lift a certain amount of weight, and you do it. And then you go, oh, but I wanted to do it in April and I did it on the 2nd of May. So it doesn't really count. So that's our brain looking to instantly discredit what we have done, which, like I say, is more often than not tied to our confidence, our self-esteem, and our self-worth. And a little bit like what's next, this is a problem because we don't have the ability in this instance to sit and enjoy what we've actually achieved. It's like we feel discomfort of being able to say, yeah, I did that and that was freaking amazing. Instead, our brain wants to go, no, it doesn't really count. Like it's nothing. I didn't really deserve this. I didn't really do anything. So that is like what I call, I hit my goal, but, and there's always that but. Rather than I hit my goal, excitement, it's the I hit my goal, but. Okay, number 4. Number 4 is around moving the goalpost. Again, a little bit similar to what's next syndrome, and does have some elements of I hit my goal, but there's a slight nuance to it. So moving the goalpost is, let's say, I want to earn $200,000 in my job. And then I get a promotion and I earn just over $200,000. And I go, oh, well, I really wanted 250. And the same way, maybe I launch a program in my coaching business and maybe I say, oh, I would love 8 people to join. And then 9 people join and I go, yeah, I really wanted 10. So when instead of discrediting it and going, oh, but it doesn't count because of this, it doesn't count because of this, what we do is we move the goalposts along. So we go, well, next time I want 10, but we've completely not celebrated or not owned everything that we've done to achieve this goal when we've more than achieved it. And this often happens when we hit our goal like right on the nose or just above, because then people almost like push that goalpost a bit further because they think, oh, maybe if I'd have just aimed a bit higher, I could have got this. Or maybe if I'd have just done this. So moving the goalpost, what I would say for that is make sure you celebrate your goal in isolation and then amend it. And I'll talk more about this at the end of the episode. But that's a really good way to make sure you don't have this kind of goal creep and goalposts kind of getting further and further away. Because then what actually happens is we never, ever feel like we've achieved anything. We never, ever feel like we've hit a goal. We keep, it's always the same distance away from us, and it just keeps going and going and going. So this one is so important because the way that we get the big wins is by celebrating the small wins. And in this instance, we never even acknowledge them because it's always further away and it's always being pushed and pushed and pushed. So like I say, really be intentional about celebrating your goal in isolation. And then if you want to move the goalposts and amend it, think of it as a fresh goal. It's not the same thing. You can have multiple goals on your way to whatever it is that you ultimately want to achieve. Okay, number 5, little bit similar to the I hit my goal, but it doesn't count, because this is definitely affected by our self-worth and our self-esteem, and also a bit of conditioning. And this is that we actually feel uncomfortable celebrating ourselves. We actually feel uncomfortable being proud of what we've achieved and maybe telling other people about it. And we feel uncomfortable feeling good about it ourselves. So something that I have talked about a lot on this podcast and something I do a lot with clients is this concept from Dan Sullivan of the gap and the gain. And this is where we are so focused on the gap between where we are and where we want to be that we don't look at all of the wins and the gains that we've had along the way. And like that concept could apply to a lot of these points. But I bring it up now because one of the strongest ways and one of the easiest and most powerful practices that you can do is collecting your daily wins. This is so powerful that my private clients have a separate channel in our Slack account to share their daily wins and collect them. And this does a number of things. It gets them into the habit of celebrating. It gets them into the habit of looking at these wins and looking for the positive, which is obviously great for our mindset, and what we focus on grows. So the more things we're celebrating, the more things we're looking at and going, I did this today, then the more we're going to look for that, which is great. And what it does when we do fall into this gap thinking, when we fall into like, oh, I've got this big goal and I'm nowhere near it, it gives us something to look back at and see all of the progress that we've made. So when we can start to see that progress, and when we take in a snapshot of time each day, maybe it's just 30 seconds or a minute to be collecting those wins. And, you know, in my case, clients share them with me. You could write them down in a journal. You could make a note of them on your phone. You could have an accountability buddy, whatever works for you. You start to become more comfortable in celebrating. You are literally exercising your celebration muscle. Think of it like going to the gym and getting some 2 or 3 pound weights and, you know, using those on your arms because you're actually getting in preparation for getting a big barbell later and lifting that. It's exactly what it is. You're building up your celebration muscle and you are focusing your brain on looking for the good, celebrating the wins, and getting comfortable with celebrating them too. Another great way to look at this, if you find that you are uncomfortable or you go, even this would work for discrediting as well, it doesn't count. If you're finding either of those things, if you feel uncomfortable celebrating or you feel like you're discrediting your own success, I often ask clients, would you be pleased for a friend if they had done this? And I think 99.9% of times they're like, yeah, I think it was amazing. So that's just a reminder that it's quite often subjective because it's us. If we saw someone else achieve what we just achieved and they were celebrating it, we would feel so great for them. And it's us. And we go, yeah, no, that doesn't feel good. So for either of those, honestly, collecting the daily wins, collecting every bit of action that you've taken and getting that body of evidence for your brain that, yes, look at all these things I'm doing. And also giving your, like I say, your celebration muscle, that little workout every day to start feeling good about what you've achieved is going to help you get more comfortable in celebrating the things that you have done. Okay, number 6. Number 6 is when we hit our goal in whatever aspect of our life it's in. And we didn't realize this, but we expected everything to change. We expected that was some pivotal moment and life was going to be roses and nothing was ever going to be the same again. And it's like a big movie ending type thing. So rightly so, if we've kind of built that up on it, whether we realized it or not, we feel really let down when that doesn't happen. And it's like, oh, okay. So let's think about this. And somewhere I've seen this happen a lot is when people get married, especially when they get married in later life where they've maybe been independent or they've been with their partner for a long time. And then they get married and they have wedding and all these things. And then you say to them, "Views after how's married life?" And they go, "Yeah, it's not any different." And some people are okay with that. Some people are like, yeah, it's just the same, really. If it's a woman, they'll be like, oh, I keep forgetting to sign my new married name or whatever. But some people really feel like it's going to change everything. Then they're really disappointed. It's like, oh, well, life's still the same. I've done the thing that I've been told will make me happy, and it hasn't. In the same way, let's say you have been looking for your life partner and your dating life has been troublesome, and then you meet someone and they're amazing and it's great. But then you go, oh, well, but I still dislike my job. Or like nothing's changed with my health, because we somehow think that finding that one piece is going to change everything. Same way, if you change your job and you get your dream job, but your relationship is bad, your job is not going to have this positive impact on your relationship. So, of course, everything's multifaceted. Of course, it's really nuanced. But this is when, like I say, you achieve the thing, you hit the goal, you do whatever it is you were looking to do. But then you realize that life doesn't actually change that much, and it can be kind of disappointing. Okay, so that is just literally a handful. Like, I scribbled down these notes in 3 or 4 minutes because I cannot tell you how many people I've supported in the last 5 years that have struggled with celebrating their goal or struggled with this feeling of being underwhelmed when they do. So I hope that has given you a little bit of permission, maybe, if you have felt any of these, to recognize A, that other people are feeling like that, and B, that once you recognize it and you have that awareness, you can start to take action. So you can start to actually enjoy your success and enjoy what you've achieved and celebrate. So just to run through those again before I give you the bonus one. Number 1 was this conditioning of never enough, that it's never good enough and it could always have been better. Number 2 is what's next syndrome, when it's like ticking a box and we're already focused on hitting the next thing. Number 3 is, oh, it doesn't count because, and when we look for mental reasons to discredit and play down our success. Number 4 is moving the goalpost. So we never actually acknowledge that we've hit the goal because we then change our parameters after it's happened and say, well, I really wanted this. Number 5 is where we are actually just uncomfortable in celebrating ourselves and we feel uncomfortable in feeling proud of what we've achieved and in taking the time to do that. And number 6 is where we've put, and we may not have realized this, but we've put so much pressure on this goal, thinking that hitting it is going to change absolutely everything. And then we realize that we've hit it and actually not that much has changed, if anything at all. Now, number 7 is, I want to give you an example of a actually very healthy reason why you may hit your goal and feel underwhelmed. And that is, if you are on your personal development journey, whether that is working with a coach or by yourself, if you have a goal, you will likely be doing some kind of identity work towards being the person who has this outcome. Identity-based habits are one of the most successful ways for people to hit their goals. And I think so powerful for introverts because it's the most efficient use of our energy. When we create the identity of the person who has what we want to achieve, it's very easy for us to think of that person and go, what kind of habits would they have? What kind of action would they take? How would they think about this situation? What would they do here? What would they say about this? So when we can create this kind of success identity around what we want, then it's much easier for us to take the actions to reach our goal, okay? Now, the reason that you may, if you're doing this and if you're on this personal development journey and you are doing all the things, you'll probably get to your goal and then you'll be like, oh, okay. And the reason is that you have grown into your identity. You have literally grown into the version of yourself that you imagined when you first tried to do this thing. A great example of this is someone running a marathon. If you are someone that has never run more than a few meters and your goal is to run a marathon, there is going to be a significant training period. I don't know, like 9 months, maybe even a year. And you are going to make so many decisions in that time from the place of someone who runs marathons. You are going to follow a training program. You're going to dedicate a large number of hours to being out on the road and running. You're maybe going to start to look at the best shoes to wear. You're going to be looking at hydration. You might join a running club. You might buy a Fitbit or something else to track it. So literally, you are embodying the identity of a marathon runner at every stage of your training. So of course, you'll cross the line. You'll be like, I did it. But also, you didn't just get up off the couch one day, having never run before, and go and do it straight away. You have slowly built up and you have morphed yourself into that identity of that person that can successfully run a marathon. So that's a really good thing. I had this with a client quite recently, not with a marathon, with something in her business, but so much of the work that we had done was on her identity and who does she have to be to have this outcome? What does the version of her that had this outcome, what do they do? What are their habits like? How do they think? What kind of personal development work are they doing? How do they respond to emails? Like all of these things. And she has worked so hard on that when she hit this goal, it's just because energetically her identity is caught up. She's exactly where she needs to be. Whereas when we first started working on it, it felt so far out that if she'd have hit it then, she wouldn't have quite believed it. She'd have been like, wow, this is amazing. Whereas now it's perfectly aligned with the version of herself that she has become through the work that she has put in. So all of that to say, there can be really good reasons why hitting your goal doesn't feel as exciting as you thought, because you may have shifted and grown so much since you set that goal that the disparity just isn't there anymore. And it's just actually the perfect thing for you to do in your current state of energy and identity. Now, as promised, before I wrap up, I want to give you a few tips on how to overcome any of these, and having this really solid structure with your goal setting and your celebrations will really help you to make sure that you don't slip into any of these And also, refer back to this episode, note them down, because what you're doing is preempting then anything that might come up, and having that awareness is key to being able to overcome it. So number 1, have a clear goal. Have a clear goal. I can't say this enough. Have a clear goal, a really clear one. And what I mean by that is make it have numbers, make it have something specific, make it be, whether it's an amount of money, an amount of clients, a weight that you want to lift, weight that you want to lose, a distance you want to run, whatever it is, make it clear and write it down, because that makes it a lot harder for our brain to then start, saying never, it's not enough, or moving the goalposts, or any of these things, because it's clear. The clearer we make it, the harder it is to not accept that we've hit the goal, okay? If we have kind of a fuzzy goal, it's easy to keep moving the goalposts. So make it clear goal. Number 2, be prepared, and you should be after this episode, be prepared for what narratives your brain might try to use on you when it happens. So this is particularly for the it doesn't count because. So be ready. Be ready for your brain. Journal on it. Be like, when I hit my goal, my brain may try to tell me it doesn't count because of X, Y, and Z. But actually, I choose to believe that it does count, and I choose to celebrate it. We all know our thought patterns. Anyone listening to this podcast has enough self-awareness now that they can recognize the thoughts that creep in when they try to do something big or take action. So be prepared. Know what is going to come up. And by calling that out in advance, when it does come up, it's going to be much more easy for you to completely ignore it and celebrate anyway. And number 3, plan your celebration in advance. This was one of the biggest things for me when I started my business. I had a list of celebrations. Now, I'm not going to lie, my celebrations are not extravagant. One of them was buying a pair of Birkenstock slippers that have fleecy lining inside, very cozy. Another one was buying some merino wool socks. And there's a theme here. I like to be cozy. I live in a cold climate. But I had these things. One of them was like a very fancy, for me, because I'm not really into wine, but a very fancy bottle of red wine that I'd had in a restaurant that I wanted to get for home. And I had this list, and I knew that every time I signed a new client, I would go to the list and I would have a celebration. And not all of them were purchasing things, And I had different celebrations, say, for if a client signed up for an intensive versus if they signed up for 6 months of private coaching, right? Because there's obviously a disparity there in what they've invested. But I would have certain things, and it might be to go shopping in a certain supermarket or to buy like the fancy tea that week. But I knew what they were, and I had a list of them. So there was no excuse. I didn't have to, quote unquote, decide what my celebration would be. Planning it in advance made it much easier because I could go straight to take action while I was still feeling good about the win, which ties me into kind of the last bit of number 3. Celebrate ASAP. ASAP after the event. So half-life of enthusiasm. Let's say, you hit your goal on Tuesday, like this is great. Straight away, when can I celebrate? When can I carve out time? What's the celebration? You know what it's going to be. When is it going to happen? Put it in the diary, make it happen. Because life gets in the way. And the last thing you want is that it's suddenly, the weekend's gone by and then it's the next week. And then you get tied up with something else at work. And then, you're going on vacation, something happens. And you haven't actually celebrated it at all. So have a clear goal. Did I mention that? Clear goal. Get ready and be prepared for what your brain is going to try to say to you when you hit it. And having your celebration planned in advance so that it's ready to do ASAP after you hit. Those three things in and of themselves are going to make it very hard for any of the things I talked about to creep in and sabotage your celebration. The more we celebrate, the more gratitude we have. The more we're in the energy of gratitude, the more goodness we attract into our lives. So it really is such a fundamental shift. And that's why celebrating all of the small wins along the way make it easier to celebrate when you hit your goal, which make it easier to keep working towards the next one. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's a pleasure to have you here as ever, and I will see you on the next episode of The Ambitious Introvert. Thank you for tuning into this week's episode. I hope that you're feeling expanded to what's possible for you, motivated to take action, and inspired about how you can start to own your energy. I share even more tools and resources on my Introverts Only email newsletter. By signing up, you not only get early access to the Ambitious Introvert products and services, but you also get brand new podcast episodes delivered straight to your inbox every Monday, meaning you'll never miss your weekly dose of introvert-friendly inspiration. Sign up now at theambitiousintrovert.com/newsletter or click the link in the show notes. See you next week.